Hey there, you're watching the Jessa channel on YouTube. I'm Jessa, and this is Pathfinder Kingmaker, the enhanced edition where we are hunting the Troll King. And to specify, we are looking for a specific Troll King named Kargad. And this may lead us to discovering why trolls have become fire resistant and become a problem in our barony. In the meantime, though, we're going to be following the trail, and in the last episode, we learned that the trail follows down south. So our companions, Valerie, Zara, our druid, her leopard Bracken, Lindsay, Jubilost, and Harem, who is with us for this part of the journey, are going to head in this direction. There's a bandit camp right here, and let's stop in, and because where we're heading, by the way, is we're going to be passing, we're heading down here to the Dwarven Ruins. So we're heading down here, past the Cobalt Trail, and on to the Dwarven Ruins. But first, let's head on in and wreck us some face in this bandit camp. A small glade in the middle of the woods in which someone has set up camp. The party notices smoke drifting above the trees, as well as some voices and what might be laughter, or perhaps drunken song. Let's enter this location and kick him in the you-know-what. Okay. So we could go ahead and buff up, but I'm going to save our buffs for when we hit a bigger area here, another area. And then also we have, with Ikandayo, we now have, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention Ikandayo's over here. With Ikandayo, who we are actually working on his quest to avenge his village, which was attacked by trolls, including this Kargad. And we're going to be hunting him. But Ikandayo also comes, he has also a wolf companion that has joined us. And that means our front ranks are going to be just this incredible teeth and maw and fur flying down upon our enemies. And so let's go ahead and fly down upon yon enemies. There's some bandits here, but I don't see anyone here, so we might, I wonder what's going on. Let's go ahead and check. Let's see. This is empty. No one's here.
It is done.
Okay. Well, this might be another one of those maps where, for some reason, because we haven't been here before. We have absolutely not been here before. I know that. So, okay, well, this is decidedly anticlimactic. The party sees something that probably no one else has ever seen before. Beside the blazing campfire stood a kobold who has wrapped himself in a worn-out elven robe. On the far side of the clearing, 3 enormous trolls shuffled their feet, hesitating. The kobold stretches out his callous paws and with immense gravity hisses and mumbles incomprehensibly. Zara and Valerie, they could hardly guess at what all of this meant. Let's have Ikandayo do this. But the fact that this kobold is here wearing some sort of robe while 3 enormous trolls shuffle about leads Zara to immediately suspect Tartuccio, who, for reasons she cannot imagine, has come back from the dead. Zara holds 2 fingers over her lips and then motions Ikandayo forward. Ikandayo carefully creeps underneath the bushes, making Not even a sound. His footfalls light and stealthy. Hiding behind the elm trees, he creeps close enough to hear the mysterious kobolds mumbling. He quietly motions the rest of the party forward. Jubilos puts his ears extremely close to Zara's and says, This is my area of expertise. I can translate what they are saying. Zara nods at him to give him permission to go ahead. And he failed that intelligence check, and Zara crosses her arms, looks at him, and says, Your area of expertise, is it? Jubilos looks extremely irritable and walks over under a bush somewhere. Our collective linguistic skills weren't sufficient to understand what was happening, and worse yet, while we listened to the kobold prattle on and on, as Jubilos stomped over the underbush, forgetting him being stealthy. He was so rude about failing. He's got so much pride that they look and they see him. The kobold points at Jubilos with his crooked finger, yelling something that didn't require translation. But whatever had been happening here, we put an end to it. The only thing left was the fierce battle that lay ahead. Zara stands up and says, We have been seen! Ready your weapons! And Bracken growls. Baring his teeth, he looks over at Tema and he says, Well, my new friend, would you like a taste of kobold this morning? And they dive forth.
Let's finish them quick.
Yayos! So what we have here is a Cobalt Flame Shaman and 3 branded trolls, meaning that they are immune to fire, but acid will still kick their butts. You know what? They want to fight? Let's do it. Oh, they want to be like that, do they? They want to get up in my business? Is that how it's going to be? Because if it's going to be like that, I can deal. I can, dish it out. Said nobody in the party at all. One day I should have a character who just talks the whole time like that. I should do that. So it is Bracken's turn, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna charge this middle troll here, so that this troll and this troll will be paying attention to this flame shaman, which is currently targeting Zara. So let's go ahead and have him do that. Actually, I just realized that is Lindsay's turn. So we'll do that in a minute. So let's go ahead and inspire some courage. And bolstered now, Bracken will head on in and charge this guy right in the face. Let's get a trip, or not. Now, trolls are resistant to fire, but they are not resistant to Bracken wrecking their face. Harem, let's do a charge here let's do a hold person here on this one. He will saved on that. Who knew that a troll could resist? He could just be like, I will prevail, but he can. And so that is a fail on that. And the next turn up is Jubilos. I think I'm going to have him save his acid as a finishing move here. And we will instead just use our crossbow on him.
Clever boy.
Yes. The branded troll misses on that, and Potema is ready to charge in. And here we go. Yo-yos! Bring on that trip. I love it, baby. I love those trips. I really do. I'm not just lying there. But yeah, so there is a trip, so one troll is down. Zara Face Sister says, my friend, hold steady. And she casts Acid Maw for Bracken, and now the trolls are staring down the slavering, acidy maws of two extremely irritable two extremely irritable animals here. And the branded troll is coming in and misses. They can't hit the side of a barn, it seems like, but that's good for us because Valerie is going to come in, and I think she's going to charge this one here. Next up is Bracken. Let's go for this one here. Yes! All right. And he is coming down here. Now Harem can do a charge. I'm not going to have him waste that whole person. I'm going to have him charge on this Flame Shaman and distract him. And then Jubilos, why don't you start working on that Flame Shaman? And then Ikandayo, why don't you start working on that Flame Shaman? I think you should take him out. Yep, and one hit. And the branded troll here is going down. And this guy is back up again, but he's got acid on him, so his life is about to be, well, it's about to hurt a little bit. Let's take him down. And he is out, and that takes us down to 2 trolls. Valerie, why don't you do your demoralize, which is pretty helpful for, there we go. Both of them are now shaken. It's Bracken. Here you go. And we have one more dead troll, no problem. Final troll here is Harem, and I'm going to have Harem come in here and do what damage he can with that. So, Patema, let's see if you can do the killing. And she can. And that is battle taken care of, except, oh, it looks like this Flame Shaman isn't dead yet. Is that what's going on here? Is he still alive? Oh!
We can do it!
Now he's dead. Yes, we can do it. So it looks like a Cobalt Flame Shaman was camping and was besieged by 3 trolls. And his camping trip went very badly. Let's move on. Or not. I said, let's move on. The Cobalt Trail is a remote place known for numerous cobalt trails. Obviously, there's a chance that trolls have decided to use the scaly little creatures' paths as tracks leading to a troll lair has been found in the hills. So we're going to head on here and see if we can't take care of some more trolls. And that brings us to another part of our story. Oh, and actually, before I do that, I remembered that the kobold was not camping. As we saw in that book, the kobold was actually talking to those 3 trolls. So they were in cahoots. So something is going on here between the kobolds and the trolls. The party notices that the hills seem pleasant, even welcoming. No gray doom or gloom, just walking along the path, enjoying the view of all the cute little white pyramids built out of pebblestone. Or wait, was it pebblestone? Wait, no! Bracken looks closer, sniffing closely at the ground. No, my friend, he says to Zara. And the only people who can understand Zara are Tema, the wolf, and Zara can understand Bracken, is Zara and Tema the wolf. So he pads back over to Zara. He nudges her a bit and says, my friend, oh, what we mistook for pebbles are polished bone. All along the path, if you see there, and he points with his nose, the grass has been riddled with pyramids made of polished cobalt remains. Zara replies to him, what's gotten me thinking, my friend? Is it wise to follow such a grim path, the way marked by death itself? Zara relays Bracken's pronouncement back to the party. Harem says, I think we should follow the path, he says in a low, depressed voice. I mean, what could happen? Death? That's nothing to be afraid of. Let us defy this danger. We need to find these trolls. Ikandayo says, we move forward. That is my goal. If you do not go forward, I will go forward without you. Zara holds up a hand and says, okay, all right. There's no need to make these pronouncements and whatnot. We'll follow the danger. We'll follow the path. We succeeded at a lore nature check, and we brushed away. Zara brushes away thoughts on who might have polished the cobalt vertebrae and why. And following her friend Bracken, the party moves on. Bracken quickly moves along the path leading through the Pale Hills. It doesn't take long for the party to reach a mountain river with a bridge crossing over it. After Bracken and Tema refresh themselves at the river, and the party fills their tankards and water skins, they look at the bridge and examine it and discover that the word bridge may be a bit generous. For it is actually just a long branch, about as thick as an arm, spanning from one bank to the other. It may have been enough for a kobold to cross. But we don't think it's going to handle, the party discusses, Bracken's weight. So, since the party can see another one of those small bone pyramids on the far side, and they realize that the kobolds have been using the stick to cross over. But unfortunately, it doesn't look nearly strong enough for our party to cross. Let's carefully examine the river itself. Bracken and Tema walk up and down the river path while the party keeps a lookout for any trouble behind. Bracken and Tema quickly discover that the river was quite deep. Bracken plunges down shoulder deep into the water and couldn't even feel the bottom of the bed of the water. He mumbles, this is too fast, this water. The current pulled a dry leaf off of a nearby tree, and it was gone from Bracken and Tema's sight in a blink. It was cold, very, very cold. Bracken comes out and shakes himself off. Tema looks at him, quiet, waiting for his instruction. He walks back to the party and says, I do not think any of us will be taking a swim in this water today, my friend. Zara says, I agree. Lindsay decides to carefully examine the branch that would help the party cross the river. The branch, she says, as she walks carefully on it, says, it does have one thing going for it. Though, being so thick, it's quite sturdy. She jumps up and down. Zara says, careful, Lindsay. She says, no, it's quite all right. But I don't think it would hold Bracken's weight. But that doesn't make this crossing any less slippery or challenging for anyone who'd be daring to set foot on it, higher, a larger creature than I. She says, I wonder how many kobolds have slipped on the wet bark and found a watery grave in the ice-cold river. And then she lays down, looking around with some curiousness before walking back to the party. Harem says, I do not fear my death. No. I would, if necessary, walk across it, but I agree that neither Bracken nor the wolf, the branch would not bear its weight. Lindsay says, let me try crossing over, and then maybe there's something we could do on the other side. I could be on the other side and hold on to another branch, and we can make a bigger bridge. And as we thought she would be, Lindsay is unperturbed by the thin branch and speeding current. After a deep breath, she sets forth along the precarious crossing. One step, then another. Oh, it's easy! A few feet crossed with no trouble, and she starts to think that maybe things would be fine. But that's when when the branch jerked and started to shake. It was rolling over, and with no time to think, all Lindsay could do was jump to the other side. She has mobility +3. She has a pretty good chance of making it, and no. I think we'll call this episode Lindsay Takes a Swim. Okay. Some days we rise and some days we fall, says Harim in his usual depressed, slow, Eeyore-ish voice. Today seems to be one of the falling ones, he says, as Lindsay makes a clumsy jump and ends with a plunge in the ice-cold water. But things are serious, for Lindsay makes a desperate scream, a splash, and she disappears beneath the water. Before we knew it, a victim of her own bravery and foolhardiness. Therefore, we're going to roll athletics 15. All we could do was pray to every god we could think of and wait for the outcome of this unexpected swim. Bracken went to throw himself in the river, and Zara grabbed him. And she said, "No, friend, no. I think she can swim through, but if not, I will ask you to go in. But let's give her a moment." Now, Lindsay has athletics -2, so we might be in trouble here. She failed an athletics check again. A few agonizing moments, and Lindsay emerges from the water, barely breathing, exhausted, but very much alive. She's coughing up water and shivering. And if that weren't enough, someone must have knocked the flimsy bridge down during all the chaos, and it had fallen into the river. Jubilos steps back away from the bridge, the branch, looking guilty and shuffling his feet, knowing that he is the guilty party. No longer spanning the two banks, the thick branch was rapidly moving towards our swimmer, who was still busy fighting the current. So Lindsay is on the other side, but yeah. She would attempt to dive under it, I think, because of how small she is, and the branch is big enough to kind of cock her in the head, you know. Oh, ow. Lindsay dove beneath the rapidly approaching branch, but she emerged too soon, and as she feared, the branch, swirling wildly in the current, hit her with its sharp nags and gouged her. After a few agonizing moments, Lindsay made it to shore. Bracken is just at the edge of the, trying so hard. He wants to dive in. He believes he's strong enough for the current. But Zara holds on to him with all of her might. So, of course, such an intense swim would have a cost. Lindsay was practically freezing, and bloody scratches covered her skin. Nevertheless, the consequences could have been far worse, and Lindsay was ready to continue. It was time to decide the party's next step. Zara says, "Lindsay, hold on! Hold on! Jump up and down if you can! Keep warm! Run!" Lindsay is lying on the ground. She lifts herself up and falls and lays motionless. Harim, in a surprising sound of agony, reaches his hand out as if he wants to try and heal her from afar. "Lindsay!" And Zara realizes that the nights of listening to Lindsay's storytelling in the tavern back in their village, combined with just traveling with Lindsay, that Harim has grown attached to her and cares. Perhaps friendship, perhaps more. as he seems so agonized. Putting this in her brain for later, now is not the time to think about that. Zara turns to the party. We must not give up. We need to find another way to cross the river. We have to save her. There has to be a way. If we have to build some bridge ourselves. Zara sits at the edge of the bridge. Sits at the edge of the river while she tries to think of what to do. And then standing up, she says, pointing down the river, she says, we'll walk down that way. If we can manage to find a crossing, we'll make our way back up. We will hurry, walking quickly, but still lightly, for we do not know what is in these lands. Bracken, if you will lead the way. And you, Ikendayo? Ikendayo nods curtly and takes the lead along with Bracken and Timur. After a long walk down the stream, they do find a crossing. Ikendayo notices it first. It's not very convenient, but it does seem to be safe. Since Lindsay is soaking wet and at risk of falling ill, the party does all they can, going very slowly, and they do manage to cross the accursed river and get back to the mysterious trail marked with those sinister bone pyramids. And it wasn't long when they found where the mysterious Cobalt path led. Before following the path, they make their way back upriver to Lindsay. Harim kneels down, placing his hands on Lindsay, almost like a paladin would, with the lay hands. He heals her using his healing ability. Lindsay is still shivering, though, because being healed does not take away the cold. Harim wraps his cloak around Lindsay's little halfling body. And the party makes a quick fire to warm themselves in this chilly high hills kind of air here. After getting a bit of food in their bellies, and Lindsay nodding and saying that she is ready to continue, the party gathers up their stuff. As Zara is putting out the fire, she overhears Harim say to Lindsay, "Little friend, yes, though I do not fear death, and you should not either, I do say that I am glad you're still here." Lindsay impulsively hugs Harim around the belly, and he pats her on her little shoulder. Valerie notices this, and a little smile plays on her lips. Moving up the Cobalt path, they see one small pyramid made of polished cobalt bones, which is a bit spooky, but it's not unbearable. But how about thousands of bones? Because that is in fact what this pyramid is made of. The party found themselves looking over a proper cobalt graveyard, with each little pyramid a mark of a cobalt death, and that mark made out of their own remains. Valerie goes, "Oh, yeesh," looking around with an unreadable look on her face. The real enigma, though, waited in the heart of the burial ground. The centerpiece was made of hundreds, maybe even thousands of polished bones, all put together to form the head of an enormous dragon. Imagine it. These small, nonsensical reptiles somehow managed to create a sculpture both fearsome and magnificent, says Valerie. She says, such might, and yet such frailty as well. If a single bone were to be removed from this foundation, she says, pointing at it, this beautiful statue would crumble to dust. Regardless, we've come face to face with irrefutable proof. The kobolds, for better or worse, were changing, she says. I don't understand this, but this news has no impact on our search for the trolls. Do you not agree? She says, looking at the party. Ikandayo nods, one short, crisp nod. The land is clearly sacred to the kobolds, he says, but it seems unlikely they would bring their new friends here. And I think he's referring to the trolls there, yeah. But he turns to the Baroness. How would the Baroness deal with this situation we have found here in your realm? Zara says, I see no reason. She says, turning to Ikandayo, she says, the Baroness, as you put it, sees no reason to leave, to mess with this Cobalt Shrine. All creatures have their burial grounds. Large creatures go off into the forest to die. Small creatures burrow in dens to die. And all of us who stand here will one day have our bones litter the earth as well, litter Galarian as well. Therefore, I think we should leave this shrine untouched. This is not our business. Our business is to find out what is going on with these trolls and to avenge Ikandayo. Is that not right, Ikandayo? Ikandayo, once again, gives one crisp nod. Then, without a word, Ikandayo turns and follows the same trail of dead that led the party to the heart of the Pale Hills. The weather in the hills is crisp, chilly. It's late summer, I believe, in Galarian at this time. And the leaves flutter through the trees with the occasional breeze. Lindsay closes her cloak even tighter around her. Occasionally, she shivers again. And Zara wonders if she's shivering from the chill or she's shivering from the memory of her near recent drowning. Let time, Zara thinks. The elements and the gods decide what to do about the kobolds. As she walks along, she murmurs this to her friend Bracken. Their strange religion, my friend, and their nascent artistic ability. I will just watch from a distance. But we shall not waste any time with the dragonhead, she continues. And they continue on with their way. On the way back, the party's luck finally turns. A family of wild boars had decided to take a rest right in the middle of what they might have thought was a long abandoned path. One lucky, quick shot from Ikandayo and a plump piglet made its way to our backpacks, soon to be a hearty meal. Harem offers to take cooking duty over from Lindsay at tonight's camp, and Lindsay gratefully accepts. So that is what is happening with the Cobalt Trail. That's the whole thing there. All right, so let's continue on. We have followed the Cobalt Trail, and that leads us to the Cobalt Camp. And this has now been revealed through our discovery of the trail. The party sees a small clearing in the forest in which someone has set up camp. Strange hissing voices can be heard speaking in some incomprehensible language. Bracken murmurs, I believe we have found their camp. And he pads forward. The gang of kobolds resting around a campfire finally notice the party, and they jump up and start scuttling around, making a mess, bumping into each other, all the while muttering something in their hissing language. Valerie shakes her head at the chaotic little creatures of evil, the little dragon worshippers. But Zara remembers the chief of the kobolds, way back when we met him in under the sycamore, the great sycamore tree. And she remembers that she promised the chief that she would do her best to protect his people as part of the truce between himself and the mites. If the kobolds attack her, she will have to defend herself, but she will attempt to talk with them and reason with them first. One kobold emerges from the swarming crowd. His scales are a touch lighter than those of his companions. Upon closer inspection, he seems to be extremely old. His skin is dry and lifeless. He clearly lost some of his scales long ago. There's something curious about this kobold. He seems calm, confident, and Zara notices a wisdom in his eyes. She wonders, could he be related to Chief Suit Scale? Jubilos frowns and folds his hands. You would do well to watch these yobos, he mutters, teeth clenched. They'll try to steal your cart as soon as you turn your back. That's just the way they are. Zara holds a hand up to Jubilos and bids him to hold his tongue. We do not need that. If there is a way that we can negotiate with these kobolds to find out what is happening with the trolls, then so be it. So please, Jubilos, do your best. Hold your tongue for once. Bracken raises an eyebrow. I mean, he doesn't really have an eyebrow, but he raises what would be an eyebrow if he had one at Jubilos. And Jubilos, beginning to sputter in outrage, falls silent. The Cobalt Flame Shaman greets Zara. Shinyagish, the old kobold hisses. The rest of the kobolds immediately calm down. Greetings, he says, addressing you and sticking out his hand. The kobold sentinel tries to respond. He says, as best he can, through their mouthful of teeth and their long tongues. Greetings. More sentinels offer their greetings as well, and Zara looks around in surprise and gratitude that maybe she does not have to slaughter more kobolds today. And they all stand, armed, wary, but looking for direction at their chief, and doing their best to take direction from him. Zara, with one glance at Valerie, who shakes her hand no, as if don't touch him, Zara ignores Valerie, reaches out her hand, and shakes the kobold's hand. Greetings. I am Zara Fey Sister, and I am an ally of Chief Suitscale. Zara finds the kobold's hand to be slimy and cold. He continues to stare, his eyes still yellow and emotionless. He says, Kobolds, humans, love, the old kobold says. Zara looks confused. She does not understand. Men's. Tartuk, Zara knows, is the alter ego of the gnome Tartusia, whom, until recently, she could have sworn was dead. The Cobalt Flame Shaman says, "Tick, tick. Bing. Search." Zara tries to piece together what the kobolds are trying to express to her.
Yes. Yes.
The kobold seems to have said his piece, so he just continues to stare at Zara with cold, still eyes. Zara says, "As I mentioned," with Valerie standing next to her with her arms crossed. "As I mentioned, my party is not here to harm you. I am, as I said, Zara Faye's sister. And I am an ally of Chief Suitscale. And Tartuk is a familiar name to our party. Until recently we thought him dead, as we felled him in battle. Tell me, do you know the story of the Suitscale Cobalt tribe? Are you familiar with them? Could you perhaps even be related?" The Cobalt Flame Shaman seems not to understand a single word that Zara is saying, but reacts to the words Suitscale. Unfortunately, he replies, "Suitscale, bad, not friend." And Zara realizes that she has run across another tribe, and this is his tribe leader, their tribe leader, and that they are probably at war with Suitscale's tribe, or at least not friendly with them. Zara says, "I'm sorry to hear that. But let's work this out." All the kobolds, every single one of them, their different eyes, some gray, some red, some yellow, are staring at her. No blinking or movement among them. It's starting to unnerve Zara. Bracken stands a little bit closer to her, ready at a moment's notice to jump, if necessary. "Tartuk! Trolls! Love! Search Tartuk! Kobold!" And Zara begins to understand.
Yes. Oh my.
Oh, we failed a wisdom check. Oh, that's too bad. We can't glean anything useful from the old kobold's gibberish. Well, I understood that, Tartuk is with the trolls, and they are against Tartuk. But Zara is unable to piece that together for some reason. Jubilost exhales noisily, tapping his foot. "It is clear," he says, "that you would be lost without the benefit of a superior intelligence like Jubilos Nothrupple. Obviously, these kobolds have lost their king, one Tartuk, who just as clearly had befriended some trolls. They're asking if you've seen him." He says, looking completely exasperated. Zara looks down at the gnome, says, "Ugh. Well, thank you for that. I was piecing some of that together myself, Jubilost." Jubilost continues, "Well, if you were piecing that together, Your Grace, then you would know that Tartuk is the purple bastard who tried to abscond with my cart. And to top it off, he's apparently the best friends of some trolls." Jubilost frowns. "It is your choice, of course. But it seems to me that our best option would be to force this gang to disperse." Speaking very slowly and carefully and using a kind of sign language that she hopes will help them understand, she says, "Why are you looking for Tartuk. And she puts a strong, she says the word very strongly to make them understand. King! The old kobold answers, his voice shaking. He's obviously getting a little tired from this conversation. Tartuk! Trudros! Cobalt! Lev! He feels as impatient about Zara not understanding him, and Zara feels about not understanding him as well. They're each impatient with the other, is what I'm trying to say. He crosses his arms as if a simpleton should be able to understand these words. So... Oh. Man, I love the voice work on these kobolds. They're so good. She confers with Bracken for a moment. Bracken, my friend, you have been following Tartuk's scent. Do you have any idea where he may have gone? Bracken sniffs the ground again and then says, he has not come through here, she says, but I believe that he was heading towards a Hodag's lair. I saw it along the way when we were on top of the Pale Hills. I saw it in the distance. His scent led off in that direction. We don't know where Tartuk is. So that's why I'm role-playing this out, that she is using Bracken's nose to give a best guess, but we don't know for certain. She turns and she says, wanting to explain that she is not sure, but knowing that that would confuse the kobold, she says, yes, Tartuk, there. And she points that way. Unable to judge the expression on his snout, Zara cannot tell if the old kobold believed her. After she answers, he turns away from her as if she ceased to exist. Following the direction that Zara has pointed, the kobolds all leave. And Lindsay, having been through quite a lot recently, lets the group know that she is very tired, and we are going to rest here. We're also going to end this episode here. For those of you guys watching me live, hang out with me. We are going to be continuing, but for those of you guys watching me later on YouTube, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Pathfinder Kingmaker, the Enhanced Edition. In the next episode, we will continue tracking the kobolds and heading down south towards the Dwarven ruins in search of the King of the Trolls. But thank you so much, as always, for watching.